Welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Moms Room podcast. I'm Dr. Allison Feldt, owner of Body Motion Physical Therapy. And today I am honored to interview Dr. Kelsea Cannon. So thank you so much for being here. And I am excited to get to know more about you and your practice and how you help moms.
Yeah. Hi, Allison. Thanks for having me.
Hi.
This is my first kind of interview on a podcast, so I'm super excited about it.
Fantastic. Cool. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I guess long story short, I'll zoom out and then I'll kind of zoom in.
Perfect.
I wear a couple different hats. I am a physical therapist and then a women's health coach. And so I've been a practicing physical therapist for a little over 10 years, and I'm a pelvic health specialist. So like you, I see prenatal and postpartum women in the clinic for all sorts of different concerns. And I work as a PT in Seattle for Elizabeth Rogers Pilates and Physical Therapy.
Nice.
And
that's
recently,
Capitol Hill.
Actually, we are in two different locations, both Ravenna and Mount Baker. So
okay.
I'm a little bit of a pinball. I kind of bounce around, and it keeps me guessing in a good way.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. And then more recently, and this is kind of, what we'll be chatting about today, is the addition of a women's health coach to my hats. And so I essentially created, or I completed a program through the Integrative Women's Health Institute with a women's health coach certification. And it kind of knocked my socks off. Like it was something that I had sort of been wondering kind of what's out there, because I had some clinical questions with a lot of my postpartum women with some of the conditions and concerns they were coming in with. And so, as the pandemic kind of progressed, I ended up finding this just amazing program that I could focus my energies into sort of answering those clinical questions. And so essentially this women's health coach certification helped me wrap my mind around the physiology of being a woman. So it applied to both me as a healthcare provider and maybe answered some of the questions surrounding my cycles of burnout and just, trying to keep up with it all and trying to serve everyone in the same way. But it also helped me really wrap my mind around the various transitions that women go through in their postpartum phases, everything from physiologically to mentally to emotionally. And so essentially I ended up being so inspired and so sort of, I guess I could say changed with the coaching process and doing it myself, that I ended up creating my own business. And that is called Pliability Health Coaching, where it's specifically designed to support postpartum women in kind of those journeys that surround their concerns that go much deeper than what's on the surface. So that's a lot of it's wrapped around mindset, right? And motivation, and how do we as women serve ourselves and our children and our spouses and our friends. And so it dives into those rabbit holes that sort of are maybe underaddressed and not really spoken about in maybe even the PT clinic. So we really unwrap all of those storylines surrounding all of the concerns that might be leading to bowel bladder issue, pelvic pain, and all of those kind of more vulnerable conversations that we have with our postpartum women on a daily basis.
Yeah, this is so near and dear to my heart. You just talking about it provoked. I'm pregnant, if you don't know, and it just provoked.
By the way.
Thank you. It provoked so much emotion. I'm like, I'm gonna cry. That's so beautiful. I mean, it really is. It's so powerful. Everything you're talking about. Yeah. I want to know, what was the missing link that you were seeing that really led you down this path?
Yeah. And it seems like there have been several of them. So the one that kind of comes to mind is, women tend to, and I suppose I'm speaking for myself, but I think I can generalize here. We do tend to put our own needs on hold for the needs of, everyone else. And that's how we're designed, from a physiology standpoint. And so essentially, with postpartum women, a lot of times we would sometimes meet kind of a max improvement level but from a bell bladder or pelvic pain standpoint. And then I always felt like there was something that we could do a little bit more of, but it required a different process. And so that was kind of where I realized, like, okay, so there's actually maybe another field and kind of another provider that could be available to help these women sort of unpack some of those burdens that they carry that may contribute to any future symptoms that arise after they, quote unquote, fix the symptom that they've been working on.
Yeah, cool. Tell us about that process. Tell us about like kind of the process of someone coming to you. Tell me about the process, and then I'll ask you more about how people find you.
Okay, that sounds great. So the process of health coaching is very, very unique. And so, with physical therapy, women usually have the reports of like, I sneeze and I pee, I have bowel issues, or I have pain with intercourse. And so those typically lead women into my hands, even as a health coach. So there's usually some like kind of concern, like, so, I've done some pelvic floor PT, but I have these other things that are happening. And that's kind of what we unpack. And so the process of health coaching is kind of developing a vision around, what is it around, or what is it that she needs to work on for sustainable results. So, she may have at that point developed connection to her pelvic floor and her abdominals and kind of getting some better bowel and bladder habits on board. But she's still having these issues maybe surrounding energy depletion, or, those chronic people pleasing tendencies, or, maybe struggling with keeping up with her exercises given by, all of the wonderful PTs that we have. So it's really sort of the process of developing her vision on how can we help sustain all of the improvements that you've made, and really keep those symptoms at bay, but also, doing kind of a week to week kind of micro baby goal sort of achievement. So we're making really small steps to eventually yield kind of larger results. And so, all too often we feel like we have to make these sweeping changes, and then it gets really daunting. And so with health coaching, you get kind of weekly support for kind of achieving those small micro steps that will eventually lead you into a better kind of version of yourself.
Okay. And I totally get that this comes to mindset and really just like probably loving yourself a little bit too. And
exactly right.
From a tactical perspective, once you kind of get that mindset and those areas, what are the tactical things? Like, is it nutrition that you're diving into? Is it exercise? Is it just balance? Which I don't even believe in, but yeah.
I know. It's like, what is that, right?
Yeah.
It's any and all of that. And so really what, especially women's health coaching, because this is really specific to women and who we are, is it really works on what her vision is. So an example would be if she comes in and she says, okay, yes, I have these better bowel bladder habits, but I'm still having these issues, and I am working with my team of providers. But I just cannot seem to get my morning routine down. And so it's really surrounding like those small baby steps that maybe she's not able to even see that she has available to her. So through a series of kind of powerful questioning, we really dive into really what's the deeper matter. And we all have stuff, right, that like lives deep inside of us that until we talk to a girlfriend or, a parent or a trusted person in our life, that we get it to come to light. So really with health coaching, it is that process of kind of non-judgmental and kind of full open ear space to have her really just say what's on her mind, so we can figure out how do we work on this. So it could be nutrition, it could be her energy levels and her sleep hygiene. Maybe she works until 10 p.m. and she's like, I can't not, what do I do? And so we get to kind of peel that back to kind of better her rhythms and kind of honor where she is and how we need to kind of just get her back to her vision.
Lovely. Very cool. How are people finding you?
So at this point, because it is kind of a new endeavor, but it is kind of gaining some traction. And so at this point, I have a website, and
Cool.
it has kind of all the links that people need. So essentially, through the website, anyone can schedule a discovery call, and that's really for the process of figuring out, are we a right fit? Is this what they need? And do they need other providers on board first before they pursue this process? Because as you can tell, it's a big process, and you have to be ready for it. We want women to kind of understand that it's a commitment. So once we schedule that discovery call, we have some time to really figure out, like, really, what are your needs? What are needs that still need to be addressed, that she can be empowered to kind of pursue with the proper support, week by week. And so once we have that discovery call, we decide if we're the right fit for each other and if she's ready and motivated. And then we launch into the process. And so it's a 12-week process. So it does take some planning. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So I guess maybe I wasn't clear enough. I guess I want to know, not necessarily, I guess, how people are finding you, but what are the identifiers? What are your clients saying? Like, a lot of people feel crummy, postpartum, or even a year postpartum, they just can't find themselves. Right.
Yeah.
And that seems like a person that would be looking for your services. What are they saying to themselves, and what are they even searching? Like, how are they identifying themselves? That's my question.
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yes. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
So, most of these women at some point are feeling stuck. So really it's the postpartum mom who feels like maybe she's tried everything. Maybe she's like, I saw this awesome PT. It was great, but we kind of plateaued. And she said, this is kind of where I'm at. And my doctor doesn't really know. And I've had some tests here and there, and they all come out normal. What else can be done? So really it's that sensation of just feeling kind of like, now what? And that's what I learned as, a PT who I was like, I love what I do, but I feel stuck, and then this program landed in my lap and I was like, oh, wow, there's this, whole process. And, a lot of times women find me too, because they are working with pelvic floor PTs, or other providers like a clinical nutritionist, acupuncturist. And these conversations do come up with, people like you and I who get to spend time with women, and you really hear their stories. And so typically, there are these indicators like really, really low energy, that's common but not normal. And just really having a hard time grasping kind of her role now as a mom, but also as a woman.
Yeah, I'm already thinking of the clients that, these are everyday conversations that you're talking about that I have, and so, I have a long list of people that I can just shoot this podcast to so they can hear you talk about this, because it's definitely, it's very real. And I think experienced probably by everyone to some level, and when you come out of that, or if you can do it on your own, most people need support, but don't realize they need support. So it sounds really, really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's, I don't know, how much health coaching did you ever hear about before, maybe interviewing Tara Morrison, who's also a PT and health coach, and then me, as a provider, have you heard much about it?
Health coaching?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've worked with my fair share, on a personal level.
Sure.
So, I think that it's absolutely valuable. And I am so biased, but I think every single mom needs that, because you just create this new identity when you become a mom. And sometimes counseling isn't necessarily the move, or maybe it is initially, but then you run out, of
kind of plateau.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so it goes deeper than that. And I think, I don't know if you offer more than 12 weeks, but I think it's like this evolution that probably, you get through the 12 weeks and you feel good, but it's like a check-in and make sure you have your check-in balances, right?
Yep.
And
that's exactly what happens. Yeah. And I'm so glad to hear that you've had exposure to it, because I felt like I was just in the dark, like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have had this 10 years ago. So So I hope it's a conversation that kind of keeps being had in amongst women, amongst friends, amongst providers, and it's a unique skill set for sure.
Yeah, lovely. So tell me a little bit about where your business is going.
Yeah.
Do you do this? You do this part-time right now? Because you're PT and doing this part-time?
Yes.
Okay.
So at some point that balance will have to change because we can only do so much. And so yes, my kind of bread and butter and my baby has been, pelvic floor rehab for postpartum women. And because I am just so excited about this, and I've been, sort of evolving as a provider and as a woman through the process of health coaching, I do see myself kind of, going 50-50 and, really being able to support both roles, but also to establish and maintain my own boundaries with my professional hats. So in the next, I would say 6 to 9 months, I will be developing some content that women can enjoy, like retreats and doing some Instagram lives. And
you better
really
share those. I want to go.
I will certainly share them. And, it's a process.
Yes, of course.
I'll admit, I am not a natural entrepreneur. And so it's been such a fun skill set to try to practice. And you really see what I have inside of me because there's so much we can share as providers. And I always think, well, the more we can get out there, the better. So I'm excited about it, and I'll certainly keep you posted.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And welcome to the entrepreneur life.
Yeah, thanks.
It's definitely uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable at first, but it just is so fulfilling. And I think learning you went through the health coach stuff, so that's fulfilling in and of itself, but just learning this whole new skill set that no one teaches you in PT school or any type of schooling. It is really fulfilling.
It is. And it's a life skill. It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
This doesn't come natural all the time to us. And so it's going to be interesting. And the couple of clients that I have, it's just so fun. I mean, and they're doing awesome, in their journeys.
Yeah. Cool. I really do have a few people in mind that I'm like, I need to send them over. It was right on the tip of my tongue, but that's okay. Oh, I was going to say, how amazing that we're in this like pandemic and you started a business. Like what a cool thing to come out of that. Right. So, we
weren't going anywhere. So I thought, well, there's no time like the present to investigate this. And it was, it's funny. It's like, I don't feel like I'm running away from anything. It's like I'm being pulled towards something. We all kind of have maybe that experience in life. And if we don't, we can only hope to feel it because it's pretty special. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like you said, there's a lot of fear and question and uncertainty surrounding any new endeavor, but I mean, to some degree, leap and the net will appear.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Manifest it. It'll just come. Yeah. Easy as that, but as hard as getting past that. So
yeah. And there is something about having conversations with women too, whether it's, PT to PT or, health client to health coach. There's just something about getting a woman's perspective that is so helpful.
Absolutely.
in anything. So
yeah. Do you work with people outside of the postpartum realm? Do you work with people going through menopause? What is the, or like kind of, any transitional point, I would say.
Yeah. So, I see that probably evolving, but at this point, I'm pretty narrow focused on just postpartum, and it could be anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. So at this point, Pliability health coaching is just specific to postpartum recovery and support, and kind of hormone balancing and nourishment. However, some of my clients, whether it's in the PT clinic or in the health coaching realm, are postpartum, but they're not also that far from menopause. And so, back to your comment about, yes, it's a 12-week program, but then there's these little kind of changes that have to still happen. And it's an evolving process. I fully see sort of moving with women throughout those seasons of life. So that's the exciting part, is how will this evolve? But I'm trying to stay focused on just supporting the postpartum women at the current time.
Lovely. Very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you want to leave us with?
Gosh, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, everyone is welcome to email me at pliabilityhealthcoaching@gmail.com. And truly, there's no such thing as a silly question. So I really just want to empower women just to know that they have a resource available to them. And if I can't help them, I will find someone who can.
Yeah. I love what you're doing. I love the offering. What a beautiful thing for women that typically are just kind of left in the dark, especially in this phase of life. So I always say if men were having babies, we would be we'd be living in a different world, So
Yes.
I just think it's so valuable to support women in this. They're underserved. So
yep, they are. Yep.
I love what you're doing. Tell us, you dropped your website earlier, but tell us the website, tell us your Instagram handles.
So my Instagram handles are to be determined, but I'm just Kelsea Cannon DPT at this point, but that's going to be a work in progress.
Great.
But pliabilityhealthcoaching.com is my business website. And like I was mentioning earlier, people can literally find me there, schedule a discovery call, and we can kind of check in. I have my 2 programs kind of lined out where sometimes women are just looking for a simple reboot and they might have like one thing they want to work on, and that's a 6-week program. And then there's a 12-weeker on there that they can kind of, run through the bullet points and say, okay. So that's a more extensive program.
Lovely.
So yeah, that's up and running and there to serve.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kelsea. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. Sure. And I look forward to seeing everything that you do and going on a retreat. So
yeah, it'll be fun. I can't wait to see what I come up with and with who I get to collaborate on and stuff with. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. This was a treat.
The Edmonds Mom's Room podcast is brought to you by Body Motion Physical Therapy. We help women through pregnancy and beyond so they can live active, confident, and healthy lives.